let's move over, if you don't mind, to the machine learning and AI space. So,
Mm,
a fun space. It's definitely gotten a lot of attention, and when you look at our spending patterns at a sector-wide level, this is the sector that's been, soaring for
mm,
several quarters now for us. Lots of momentum, lots of energy being put in this space, and it's not just kind of the run-of-the-mill sort of ML ops and kind of big time enterprise ML and AI work. It's also generative AI tools. It's lots of areas. Perhaps RPA blends into this as well. Those are separate sectors, but it's all part of the same, tide that's lifting all the ships. Microsoft and OpenAI with ChatGPT, of course, these, are way up high here in our spending intentions.
mm,
Google and AWS kind of short behind. Anthropic, kind of a newcomer in the space that's part of the sort of generative AI push. Meta Llama, the Facebook Meta, that is,
mm.
and Databricks. So there's lots of places here, but Snowflake also has their own AI and ML offerings. So I'm curious to know, in your ML and AI practice, how evolved is your data science practice? Is it something where you have dedicated full-time data science team that's got their own ML ops, working, patterns? Is this still very exploratory? Is it one-off, little use cases? Where are you in your maturity journey when it comes to data science and ML?
I think we're very early on in that maturity journey. I think a lot of the time, or not a lot of the time, but I guess in most recent years, the organization's been very dependent on some of our outsourcing organizations to sort of put together a piece on that. So only really in the past year, we started building up our data science initiative and our data analytics initiative. So finding ways to utilize the existing databases that we have, and then using sort of a bit of Microsoft, a bit of OpenAI to sort of start looking at how we can start establishing trends and start sort of picking out areas where various sort of business procedures can be improved. Not only that, but our strategic perspective as well. Like, are we missing something in the market, and can we analyze our existing client base to determine which other areas to potentially look into and expand upon, and making sure that we're covering a wider environment as well.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Okay. Well, as you evolve, I'm curious to see where the momentum will go. We do have some tools that are, maybe they're not niche tools, but they sort of have a definite pocket that they operate in, helping
Mm,
organizations sort of jumpstart or get their AI and ML programs going. Then there's sort of the generative AI tools, and then there's, kind of the more robust platforms, the end-to-end ML ops type. The market array tools, we just did this survey that we've been launching. You can see how many areas we've covered so far, but it's designed to be a new syndicated survey where we look at a product level as opposed to vendor level and ask a bunch of things like product strengths. And I just want to pull over here for a second. We have the
mm,
the market array for ML and AI tools, and plotted some of these vendors and, roughly presence against their spending momentum into different sectors. So this looks a lot like some of the other analyst firm, graphics out there, but ours is entirely based on data. And so in this kind of leading area, you've got Azure and Amazon and Google, but then also Databricks, but Hugging Face, an interesting one. TensorFlow, it's been around a long time, and Meta Llama even inching over the corner here. So lots of interesting players in the space. But if we scroll down, look at sort of the net promoter, or excuse me, the vendor strengths here. Some of these tools, if we look at Snowflake, I know that or Snowflake's not in this survey, excuse me, but if we look at, something like Amazon SageMaker, for instance, the strengths that they have that people agreed with the most was that they had an innovative technical roadmap, that there are relevant technical professionals out there that can be hired, and that their updates are executed well. Some tools like Microsoft Azure, have similar kind of, arrays here, but then, other tools have different kind of sorting out here. But what kind of strengths would you look for in an AI and ML tool, I guess? What's more important to you? Is it ease of use? Is it, ease of implementation? Is it the how innovative the roadmap can be? What kind of things do you tend to look for when you onboard a new product?
I think when it comes to onboarding a new product, and this could be, so as you mentioned, Darren, AI related, or even any other vendor, it's always to do with, well, how sort of, but based off our own use cases that we have in the organization, how well do they fit with the solutions that the vendor's offering? And is there some sort of traction there? Is there some sort of cohesion between the two enterprises? I think that's one thing in terms
Mhm.
of, is there something that can be immediately solved or looked into? And I guess the second one is also around what sort of level of support is there, not only from the vendor, but I think, like you mentioned as well, the level of skill set that sort of that's out there with the workforce. Are there people who can sort of got familiar with this vendor, familiar with the coding, familiar with the tooling and all the sort of updating that's required on it. So yeah, I think those are some things to consider and some things that we definitely consider as well when bringing on a vendor too.
Yeah, great, great. Um, and kind of as we're coming up on the end of time, I want to get to one other sector, if you don't mind. You did mention RPA earlier.
Mm,
Robotic process automation is an interesting space. I think people explore RPA for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's very simple, like let's automate these handwritten invoices from the field. Let's, do something kind of simple like that. Sometimes it's more full scale.
mm,
Um, there are tools like Microsoft Power Automate, which are highly pervasive and pretty high spending intentions. A lot of pros and cons about this tool, but it's kind of, pervasive. So a lot of people have familiarity with it and pretty easy
mm,
to use. But you have other folks in the space that have really built their whole business around this, like Appian and Automation Anywhere, UiPath,
mm.
that have been around for a long time. Blue Prism, some of these smaller ones here. Um, Tell me about your RPA tooling, and how and why you came to some of those tools.
Yeah. So with us, we looked at Automation Anywhere.
Hmm.
That was one big one. We also looked at Emphasis, Pegasystems. And I think with Microsoft Power Automate, that's already sort of within that 365 suite. I know that there's perhaps ways to upgrade and get more functionality from Automate, but those are some of the tools that we looked at. I think we arrived at Automation Anywhere, I
Hmm.
guess, primarily from the basis, like you mentioned, it's ultimately a company that's born out of RPA itself. So it's really specific to RPA. It's sort of um, it's a specialist within that field, and I think at the time it just happened to fit the use cases that we had as an organization, and it also happened to be very easy for some of our staff members and outsourcers to use as well. So that was a key feature, or not feature, but a key functionality of why we chose that.
Yeah. Okay. Great. It's some of the comments we've heard about Automation Anywhere and is Microsoft Power Automate. Sometimes Power Automate kind of gets written off as very easy to use, but also maybe doesn't do enough or is not as customizable as we need it to be.
Mhm,
So it's sort of the easy onboard is generally a lot of comments we hear, and then Automation Anywhere maybe is the opposite, right? Lots of
mhm.
functionality, but maybe a steeper learning curve, perhaps. So does that resonate with you? Has it been easy to adopt and get others to find new use cases for it?
I think that's yeah. I mean, I think that's a really key part of Automation Anywhere, being that it's so customizable. It's
Hmm.
incredibly customizable. It sort of fits in very well with a variety of different business functions, and also it's also quite scalable as well. So you can really lift and shift it across various different languages and also existing models that are in the organization. And it's okay. It's not like the most prettiest interface, but it serves a very key focus. Sorry, a key purpose in
Yeah.
terms of just simplifying repeatable operational procedures across the organization.